Every now and then, politics gives us this cautionary tale that is so obvious, so preventable, so painfully self-inflicted that you almost want to sit the candidate down like a rebellious teenager and say, "Sweetheart, who told you that was a good idea?" Who am I talking about, you guys? Well, I'm talking about Winsome Sears. Winsome Sears ran the How to Lose an Election in 10 Easy Steps, and it was a master class because let's be clear, nobody stole the Virginia governor's grace from Winsome. Democrats didn't outsmart her, Republicans didn't even betray her. Winsome lost because she tried to win an election without her base while slapping her base smack in the face. Winsome distanced herself from Donald Trump several years ago. Bad move. That was a bad move. But the move of all moves, that was the worst thing that she could have done, was Winsome selected a homosexual running mate and somehow thought that the evangelicals, the backbone of the Republican Party, the people who actually show up, rain or shine, Bible in one hand, voter card in the other, she thought that they were going to clap like seals and kind of just go along with it. Honey, who has bewitched you? Who lied to you and told you that that was going to fly? I hate to say it, but y'all, it sucks that she lost. But this wasn't sabotage. This wasn't strategy. This was spiritual and political malpractice. And today, we're doing the postmortem. Let's get into this. Grace and peace, you guys. Welcome back to Unshakable with April Chapman as we discuss all things social, cultural, political, and theological from a biblical perspective. I'm your host, April Chapman, and welcome to today's show. So today we've got to talk about the Virginia governor's race. And I talked a little bit about the race before the election. And now we got to talk about what happened after the election. So now we just got to stop playing. Okay, let's just get it all out. Winsome Sears, she had a lot of things optic wise, image wise, such as being an immigrant and a Marine veteran and just presenting this persona of being this gun-toting conservative woman. I mean, when you put all things considered, that is kind of like the American dream. But image alone does not equal strategy. Image doesn't equal strategy. Image doesn't equal conviction. Image definitely does not equate to discernment. And so in this election exposed that Winsome Sears was very high on the optics, but low on wisdom, and we have to talk about it. Now, the first thing I got to do is I need to apologize to you guys, my audience. And I need to apologize because in the spirit of wanting to cover all things and kind of want to be all things to all people, I did not dig deep enough and do my research to let my audience know this on the front end. So I do have to apologize, but we're going to have to talk about it on the back end. And you'll find out soon enough what I'm talking about. But Winsome Sears' campaign, you guys, now that we're looking back, it was just full of contradictions. Okay. So on one hand, you had this pro-family messaging. And then on the other hand, Winsome had a running mate who was living in open, unrepentant rebellion against God's design for a family. What do I mean? Y'all, the lieutenant governor candidate that was her running mate is a openly homosexual man married to a man. I mean, it's like a whole ebony and ivory relationship. John Reed's white, his boo thing is black, and they are married.
Well, this is terrific. Thank you all for being here where it all started. And good evening, Virginia, to everybody who is watching. This is clearly not the outcome that I had hoped for, that we had hoped for, but it's one that I accept with gratitude, humility, and a deep sense of pride in what we all built together over the last year. To every volunteer, supporter, donor, friend, to my partner Alonzo, and our family, I want to say thank you. You gave your time, your talent, and your hearts to this campaign. You believed in something bigger than politics. You believed in the real Virginia.
And this is my fault. This is my fault because one, to be honest, who looks at the lieutenant governor really, unless there's something notable about him, and this was pretty notable, but I did not know. I did not know until after the fact, and I did the digging, and I'm like, darn, she absolutely is gonna lose. And so my question to Winsome is, ma'am, did you not read the daggone room? Listen, evangelicals are not perfect. I know that is such a broad term, evangelicals, and it encompasses so many different stripes and persuasions of Christians and Christians in name only and churchians and all kinds of people all in between. But even despite the flaws and the imperfections, y'all, evangelicals are not stupid. Okay? They know the difference between a conservative and a conservative adjacent person. And if you thought that you were going to be able to sell that in a statewide campaign, you were sadly mistaken. And so what I want to do is I want to identify the top 2 mistakes that Winsome Sears made in this campaign. And they're really, really simple. They are simple, but they are big mistakes. So mistake number 1, Winsome Sears distanced herself from Donald Trump. And that is a recipe for a losing campaign. Like literally, here's where the wheels came off the entire campaign. Okay? So you cannot win a statewide GOP race, especially in 2025, if you're going to treat Donald Trump like he's some distant cousin that you only claim for the family reunion photo op. You can't do that. That's just not going to work. Okay? Evangelicals, we see Donald Trump not as a personality, but Trump is the policy firewall against the Democratic Party's Marxist, anti-Christian agenda. You don't have to like him, but it is what it is. He's the policy firewall. So when Winsome publicly tried to quote unquote, actually it's not quote unquote. No, yes it is. She said, we're going to move past that.
But let me, Governor, if I can, get your take on what Charlie Gasparino and I were discussing, that the Republican Party seems to, or some want to, sort of move on from Donald Trump. What do you think of that? Is that fair?
Well, you know, his administration, when it came to the economy, helped us because black unemployment was the lowest it had ever been historically. And then, of course, when it came to education, he forgave his administration the loans that historically black colleges and universities had owed that they could never repay. And by the way, provided a permanent funding stream. And then safety. Forced NATO to bring their fair share, only 2% of their GDP. But when we look at the mission, and as a Marine, we're looking at the mission, and you know, the voters have spoken, and they have said that they want a different leader. And a true leader understands when they have become a liability. A true leader understands that it's time to step off the stage, and the voters have given us that very clear message.
So does that apply within the Republican Party, Lieutenant Governor, to Donald Trump, that it's time to step off the stage?
Yes, a house divided against itself cannot stand. And indeed, that's where we are today. And as I said before, America is the prize. Why do we want to win elections? It's because we've got to learn to love each other, live together, govern together. And the voters are saying enough is enough.
So if the party wants to move on, or some of the parties, such as yourself, Lieutenant Governor, maybe Governor Youngkin feels the same way. But Donald Trump still makes a speech next week that he wants to run for president. What would you think about that?
I could not support him. It is time to move on.
She tried to move past Trump. How you move past? How you do that, ma'am? Not only is he the president, but he is MAGA, okay? You can't publicly try to move past Trump without knowing how that's going to impact you in an election. When she said she wanted to move past Trump, do you know what evangelicals heard? We heard, oh, you don't need Trump. So essentially, she thought that she didn't need Trump to win. And I'm like, girl, see, look how that turned out for you. This is where you messed up. You messed up, and you messed up big. When you insult the people who actually vote, the evangelical base, you cannot be surprised when they stay home and let you get your behind spanked, because that's basically what happened. They literally voted for someone that wouldn't even disavow a person that wanted to delete other humans, including his children. That woman beat you. And I'm just giving you the details as to why. Now let's talk about the other scandal that somehow I didn't learn till it was a little bit too late. But it wasn't a scandal because conservatives are confused and don't know what to do. It was a scandal because this woman ran a Republican ticket in Virginia with a running mate who was openly homosexual and married to a man. Like, ma'am, this is why many people are struggling to take conservatives seriously, because this was just dumb. This was a political suicide mission. And my question is, what exactly were you trying to convince us that you were trying to conserve? Because the last time I checked, the conservative movement, real conservatism, is grounded in some basic fundamental truths. The nuclear family, well, you got to throw that out the window with little buddy and his boo thing. Biblical morality, you got to throw that away with your running mate once again, because it's him and his boo thing who are married. And then public policy. Evangelicals want public policy that aligns with God's created order, because we know that to maintain a healthy society, you have to have at least those basics. So I know Republicans in general may be disappointed and are asserting that evangelicals abandoned Winsome. That's not what happened. Winsome abandoned evangelicals first. This was not big tent conservatism. This was, please like me, liberals, and I'm going to cosplay and act like we can all go along to get along, and please vote for me. And it didn't work. It flopped. I saw Winsome go on Jillian Michaels' show. And listen, I actually like Jillian Michaels. I actually like her take as a podcast. It's an amazing show, right? But when I watched that whole interview, because I just really wanted to see. I wanted to see how it was going to play out. And Winsome went on Jillian's show. And then when Jillian asked her about whether or not she had any plans to legislatively do away with same-sex marriage or to mess with same-sex marriage in any way, Winsome folded. She folded and she dropped the ball. And here's my thing. Like, I can sit and have a discussion with Jillian Michaels, and we can find so many areas where we agree and that are common ground. But if you think that I'm going to abdicate my Christian conviction, which if I believe it is the truth, and if I believe that it is the way healthy societies have managed to flourish, and you're asking me, hey, well, what is your position on the gay marriage thing? I'm be like, listen, Jillian, I know you're married to a woman. I understand that. I respect you as an image bearer. But I would be remiss if I didn't say that we don't know the long-term effects of what these reimagined families are going to do to society. And then I say, you know what? Yes, we do. we do know the long-term effects of these reimagined families, and love is love, and love who you want, and a woman can marry a woman and a man can marry a man. We know the effects of that. It is chaos. It is confusion. Children are confused. They don't grow up with the healthy balance of God's created order as he ordained it. And I know that's frustrating for you. And I know you may even feel personally attacked by that position. But it is a position that has stood the test of time, and healthy societies have been created on the foundation and the backs of healthy communities. And healthy communities are comprised of nuclear families, because that is the best pair bonding outcome that we know of that yields positive benefits and results. That's what I would have said to her. So you're asking me if I would mess with same-sex marriage legislatively. As a conservative, I need to be upfront and honest and let you know I don't agree with that kind of legislation. Now, it's already the law of the land. It is what it is. We will see what the legislators in the state of Virginia, if someone were to introduce a piece of legislation that wants to get rid of it and it gets the votes, I am signing it. I am signing it, Jillian. You just have to say it. You can say it with love and kiki and ha ha with her, but we're not going to sit here and act like it's okay. No, we're not doing that. And then to put the cherry on top of this, even Glenn Youngkin, the current governor of the state of Virginia, and y'all, he's not some real bold, and strong and committed Republican conservative. This is a man who tiptoes around controversy like it is wet paint. Even Glenn Youngkin had sense enough to know, listen, your running mate, John Reed, that's a no-go. Get rid of him. This is not gonna fly. You will lose. She didn't have sense enough to drop John Reed like a bad habit. And that tells you everything. It tells you everything you need to know. Now, I am willing. Now, mind you, I'm a conservative, so that means 99.999% of the time, did I say cent? Percent of the time, I am going to vote for the Republican. The question is, would I have voted for Winsome Sears? Well, there were a lot of things I liked about her. And I didn't learn about her running mate and who he was and what he had going on till after the fact. Had I known, I was like, yeah, I ain't gonna be able to do it. And this is what other Republicans did as well. But here's what I will say about John Reed. I believe he was a plant. I believe he was a plant, and the math proves it. So let's go a little deeper. This whole setup, it felt like a textbook political infiltration. Walk with me for a second, right? You insert someone who is got these socially liberal ideologies that he clings to, right? You insert him in, dress him up, all in the name of diversity. Think about it. He's a homosexual man, and not only is he married to a man, he's married to a black man. Look at them those three intersectionality boxes. So there's your diversity. And then you take that and then you attach it to a conservative candidate. That is your recipe for if you want to see evangelicals evaporate, you run that ticket. I'm sorry, John Reed was not an asset. He was a plant. He was the Achilles heel that Democrats didn't even have to expose because Winsome did it for him. She did. The moment that she chose him, that race was over. And she just didn't know it. Or maybe she did. I mean, she was campaigning pretty hard. I don't see how she could not see that writing on the wall. Evangelicals didn't just sit out of rebellion. They didn't just sit home and not vote to be rebellious. They sat out because you can try to shove this mess down our throats all day long, all you want to. But evangelicals, for the most part, they're going to stick with what the Bible says, and they're not going to bend on that. They're just not. So apparently, Winsome thought that she could kind of walk both the righteousness and the rebellion and then call it unity. And the question is, how do you call out the transgender issue? And you claim that you don't want men in women's sports when your running mate has a whole husband. Ma'am, that is not unity. That is just straight up confusion. And God is not the author of confusion. And I know that you know better, but you tried to play both sides and it's just not going to work. So we need to ask ourselves, why did evangelicals stay home? You know, people love to blame evangelicals when Republicans lose and say, oh, the Christians didn't vote. Oh, the base stayed home. Well, let me make it clear. Evangelicals are not your political side chick. You've been treating us like that for far too long. And now the world is so far left that we're like, we're not doing it. You don't get to disrespect our convictions. You don't get to trample on our doctrines and promote sin on your ticket and then ask us to show up faithfully on election day. Not going to happen. Evangelicals stayed home because they refused to endorse what God condemns, and they were confused and trying to figure out why you can't read the room. And of all the candidates, you couldn't find nobody else. That does not make them extremists. It just makes them consistent and having a heart posture of obedience to God. Woe to those who call evil good and good evil. Evangelicals are not going to vote for a team that asks them to call evil representation. We don't want diversity that bad. In fact, we don't even care about diversity. We were going to vote for the black woman, not because she was black, but because she indicated that she shared our values. But now we're learning that you don't really share our values because you ain't had sense enough to pick somebody else as your running mate. You picked the homosexual, the sodomite married to a man. Girl, come on now. This is the hard truth. Winsome Sears's Christian witness was compromised here, and that is the pain that hurts, but it has to be said. Winsome Sears's political compromises destroyed her Christian witness because you can't claim to stand on biblical truth while publicly affirming partnerships that God himself calls sin. You didn't need John Reed as a running mate. What you did was you bowed the knee to the Rainbow Mafia, and I'm wondering, is it because they donated money to your campaign and you felt that you needed it to win? I'm sorry, though. If that's the case, sorry for you, because you can't claim to be a conservative while advancing the very ideologies that are destroying the family. Winsome wanted conservatives and liberals to love her, and how can two walk together lest they be agreed? What she really ended up with was liberals who still didn't vote for her and conservatives who felt betrayed and they stayed home. That's what was the end result. Compromise cannot help you win. Compromise never wins. Not spiritually, not politically, not ever. You stand on business and your tribe will come out in full support. And either you trust God that you will have favor in an election where you hold to his principles, or you lean to your own understanding and you end up losing the race, because that's what happens. So listen, here's the autopsy report. I have it. It's I'll be the political medical examiner. The cause of death was political compromise and theological inconsistency. The fatal mistakes: distancing from Trump, choosing a sodomite running mate, misunderstanding her own base, prioritizing optics over obedience and consistency, and confusing identity politics with Christian conservatism. Okay? Now, the time of death, we're going to write on the death certificate. The time of death for that campaign was the moment that she said John Reed's name out loud. The moment she did that, Listen, those evangelicals did not kill Winsome's campaign. She killed it. She was just stabbing it in the heart. Okay, I'm just saying. And until Republicans learn that you cannot win without the people who actually believe something, you're going to keep burying candidates who tried to win elections doing so without a spine. So I'm curious to know, what do you guys think? Do you think that, or believe that Winsome Sears just misunderstood the Republican base and thought she was going to slide this one in and it was going to win and like help her win? Do you think her compromises cost her the election? Another question to ponder. Should GOP candidates just stop trying to please people who will never vote for them? At least that's me. I'm like, they're never going to like you. They're never going to like you. But I'm curious to know your thoughts. I want you to let me know down in the comments below. And until next time, you guys, stand firm, stay bold, and above all else, stay unshakable. Grace and peace.